Okay, welcome back. This is English 373, week 4, part 1. Can you guys tell that I filmed the first 4 weeks of school in one day? I've just been changing glasses and shirts to make it seem like a person. I imagine the giveaway would be the shit on the table hasn't moved. Um, so if you're paying attention to the background, you probably noticed that I don't know what's over there, but my keys have been in the same spot for 4 weeks of your time, because I filmed all of this shit and I've been just talking all fucking day. Anyway, welcome back to English class, Shakespeare class, and we're doing pretty good. Last week I sort of gave you what I thought was my sort of big read on Macbeth, my crazy Macbeth secret thing, which is I think he has erectile dysfunction, and that's what the play is about. Shakespeare's really good. Shakespeare builds characters that are 3D. They feel like real people. You ever see really, really old paintings from 1,000 years ago, where everybody's sort of two-dimensional sideways like this, and they look weird? And then 400 years ago, they have things where oh, there's a background, and things in the background are smaller. Um, it was at some point people figured out how to draw perspective like that, so that paintings look more like photographs and less like those drawings little kids do, where they draw a house and mommy and daddy and they're all the same size and they're all on the front of the thing. There's no background. Shakespeare did the same thing. Shakespeare figured out how to create characters that feel like real fleshed out human beings. Macbeth is so well done that he, to me, feels like a real person. He feels like he has depths of personality to him. Um, in a way where I often find movie characters to be kind of flat and not super interesting. I mean, John Wick is sad about his dog and he punches things a lot. That's it. That's the character. There's not a lot to think about John Wick's psychology. I mean, he liked that dog. That's great. I love dogs, but I don't know. I don't know what to say about it other than that. Um, Shakespeare gives you something that's hard to find elsewhere. The only place I think you can find personalities like Shakespeare's are in real life. And even then, a lot of people I know in real life are less interesting than Shakespeare characters. But anyway, that's me and my crazy Shakespeare obsession. So, uh, okay, cool. I think we're doing pretty good. So we're going to head into the next part of the play here. I'm on page 10. Um, this is a passage in which Banquo hires the assassin. I'm sorry, in which Macbeth hires the assassins to kill Banquo. Um, and I want to look at it. Um, yeah, I found there's a clip that I want to show you, but unfortunately I can't find a clip. But I did find the entire movie, and the clip of this scene starts at about the 48-minute mark. It's a version of Macbeth directed by Orson Welles. Um, so the whole movie is online if you want to watch it. I love it, but my students hate it. Um, People can only handle one thing at a time. So I teach a film class where I make students watch old movies and try to get them to like them. And I teach a Shakespeare class where I get people to read Shakespeare and try to get them to like Shakespeare. Um, I think making people watch old movies, from the 40s, 1940s old, not 1990s old, 1940s old. I think showing people a movie from 1940 that's also a Shakespeare movie is that's too much to ask people to do. I think Orson Welles' Macbeth is awesome, but it is weird. It's not a normal movie by our standards. I think it's amazing, but it's pretty wacky and pretty strange. Anyway, the whole thing's on YouTube, and I'm gonna put it on this playlist. But if you want to watch the scene that I want you to see, you're gonna need to move it to the 48-minute mark and just watch for a couple of minutes so you can see the speech where Macbeth talks to the assassins. But the whole thing looks like it was filmed on Neptune, and it's this crazy black and white. He has this weird square crown that's amazing, and Orson Welles is just he directed Citizen Kane. A Touch of Evil, and I teach a film class, so Orson Welles matters to me. Also, if you know Pinky and the Brain, a lot of my students don't realize this, but Pinky and the Brain the brain in Pinky and the Brain is essentially just an Orson Welles reference. He's trying to sound like Orson Welles, who was an actor and director from the 1940s, who kind of made some of the most important movies ever made. And Orson Welles is really cool. I really like Orson. He's a big Shakespeare guy. He made 2 Shakespeare movies. He did Othello and Macbeth. And he did more than that. He did Chimes at Midnight, which is based off of 2 or 3 other Shakespeare plays. Anyway, he's an interesting guy, but it's probably it's enough. I'm asking you to do Shakespeare. I'm not also asking you to do Orson Welles, but I think Orson Welles is fucking cool. Anyway, let's go talk about the scene where he hires the assassins to kill Banquo. Okay, cool. It's a neat scene. It's interesting. Um, he basically gets these 2 guys out of prison and says, you know that Banquo caused all your problems, right? You need to kill him for me. And I think they know Banquo did not cause all their problems, but when the king tells you, hey, you know Banquo caused all your problems, right? You want to kill him for me? They're gonna be like, oh yeah, because Macbeth will fucking cut their heads off. He's a bloodthirsty monster. Oh, I love Macbeth so much. Oh, let me say this now in case I forget. Please do not write any papers about Macbeth and House of Cards. I don't want that paper. Don't do that to me. I've read that paper too many times. Please don't do that. Um, okay, cool. All right, let's take a look at the scene on page 10. Um, he says, "Our fears." Oh no, wait. It's over here. So he tells the assassins that they better do what he says, and kill Banquo. He asks him like, "Are you so weak that you won't kill Banquo? Um, Are you so gospel to pray?" I'm sorry, I'm doing an Orson Welles impression now. He does it in Scottish. It's this like weird Scottish accent. "Are you so gospel to pray for this good man and his issue, whose heavy hand hath bowed you to that grave and beggar yours forever?" My accents are terrible. But he says, like, "Are you so gospel?" Meaning, are you like such Christians that you're against all forms of violence, or are you going to take revenge against Banquo? They know Banquo didn't do anything to him, but when the king says, "Don't you want to get revenge against Banquo?" They're like, yeah, of course, yeah, whatever you say, sir. So they're doing that. What's interesting is what they say to him in response. He says, like, "Are you weak that you're going to let Banquo not die? You're not willing to kill Banquo for me?" And they say something real interesting to him. They say, "We are men, my liege. We're men." So once again, he says, "Don't you guys want to do something violent?" And they say, "Hey, we're men." That's their way of saying, yes, we do want to do something violent. Because men in this play are being defined by the characters as violent. By the way, it's really important. A lot of people will read a Shakespeare play and be like, Shakespeare said this, and Shakespeare thinks that, and Shakespeare believed this, and Shakespeare. But we never actually hear from Shakespeare. It's characters in his plays. I mean, he wrote some sonnets, and that's complicated, but we don't really hear from Shakespeare directly. We hear from his characters. So, certainly he has plays where characters say terrible things about women. I don't think that means Shakespeare hated women. Um, so again, these definitions of masculinity are not coming from Shakespeare. They're coming sort of from the characters in Shakespeare, which is Macbeth. And Macbeth has some problems with women, as we have been exploring. Um, so they say we are men, and Macbeth says something interesting. I really like this speech. He says, "I in the catalogue ye go for men, as hounds and greyhounds, mongrels, spaniels, curs, shuffs, water rugs, and demi-wolves are all clept by the name of dogs." Hard to follow that, but it's a list of dogs. He's just listing off kinds of dogs. So the guy he says, "Do you want to do something violent?" And the guys go, "Yeah, of course we want to do something violent." And he says, uh, they say, "We are men." And he says, "Yeah, in the catalogue you go for men," meaning technically you're men. But he says lots of different things are called dogs, and he starts listing off things that are called dogs, and he has a whole list of them. And I don't know what all those kinds of dogs are, but the point is that like a big German Shepherd is a dog, but a little tiny Chihuahua is a dog. And if a friend of yours says, "Oh, hey, I got a dog," like technically the little tiny dog is also a dog, but that's not when some people say dog, they mean like a big dog they can roughhouse with and play with and do frisbee and stuff with. But like a little tiny dog, people go, "Oh, that's not a dog. It's like a rat. That doesn't count." Um, so he's saying that that's true of men also. That technically you're a man, but just as there are lots of different kinds of dogs, there are lots of different kinds of men. What kind of men are you? Um, this is really interesting, this perspective, because I think it really captures something about modern day life, and the way we see gender and masculinity now. Um, because there's a common sense idea that seems like it should be right, but is not quite right. That just the definition of a man is someone who has a penis, and the definition of a woman is someone that has a vagina. Seems pretty straightforward to most people, but if you think about it, you'll be able to see that there's something really wrong with that. Because, for example, I'm sure if you're a man, you have had people tell you to act like a man, be a man. And and I'm sure if you have a vagina, you have had people say, "You need to be more ladylike, act like a lady. This is not what ladies do." Um, it's interesting, right? Because when they say that, they're basically admitting that a penis is not enough to make you a man. Because when they say, "be a man," they don't mean have a penis. They mean act in the following ways, usually violent or stupid or tough. And when people say, "be a lady," they don't mean have a vagina. They mean act polite and nice and nurturing and kind and cook people food. And you know what I mean? So like they know this. Like just the very existence of somebody telling you to man up And you can't just be like, yeah, I have a dick, I'm done. They want more than that because everybody knows that being a man or woman is this like list of social roles, even though we claim it's about biology. All right, I'll pick it up in the next thing.